Hello and welcome. It is 11:11 Eastern Time, so let's take a deep breath together. Hi, so fun to see you here. I'm so excited to dive into an incredibly important topic today that is relevant for every woman in the world who has been raised in the culture that we've been raised in, which is to examine people pleasing. And I am Lydia Knight. Hello, I'm the founder of the She Center, and it's such a joy to see you all here as we discuss breaking this cycle, especially breaking the life cycle of a people pleaser. So today we're going to look at that whole life cycle. We're going to hone in on one of the most important things that switches in our life and how we're socialized as women, and how that turns into people pleasing and how to really end that piece, right? Because this whole idea of, oh, I'm a people pleaser, so I need to just not care what people think, or I need to give up on my responsibilities, or I need to be selfish. Like, these are all the layers of programming that really keep us back from being, like, making the world a better place because we are centered. The world actually becomes a better place when you are centered, and that is not selfish. You being centered is not selfish, but it feels like this really difficult uphill battle to like not care what people think. And so we're going to debunk a lot of the ideas that we have around people pleasing today, because that's an important part of breaking the cycle. So when I was in elementary school, there was this guy that walked up to me and just sort of like shoved his hand in my face real fast. And then he's like, haha, made you flinch. Now, this is like super rude. Like, I hope that people aren't doing this in elementary school now. Maybe they are. Maybe it was a thing of the 90s. I don't know. But when someone does something, right? Like they pretend like they're going to like physically hurt you and you flinch, wouldn't it be weird to take on the identity of like, oh, I'm a flincher. Oh no, like there's something wrong with me. No, that would be ridiculous, right? If someone is doing something in your direction that makes you flinch, it's not your problem. You're not a flincher. It's that you have an external force that is working upon you, and what you're doing is a completely natural and sane reaction. Because I remember thinking, even as like a little kid, when this bully came up to me and sort of shoved his fist in my face, like, what is the alternative? If it's funny to him that he made me flinch, like, would the alternative just be to stand there, like take a punch, not care? Like, that seems like a lack of survival instincts, if you ask me. So along with that, it's important to remember that these titles that are given to us as women, or we take on as women, of, oh, I'm a people pleaser, or I have imposter syndrome, is not an issue with us. It's not some sort of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. It's you are having a completely natural response to how the world is treating you. And that is extremely important to remember. So when we talk about ending the cycle of people pleasing, it's not like, hey, there's something wrong with you and we're going to fix it. It's you have had a completely natural response to the world and culture that you have been raised in. And this is about learning how to question it. This is about learning how to center yourself and to break that cycle, because yes, you are empowered to do so, but it's no failing of yours. It's just a natural response to how we are treated as women. So let's talk about the life cycle of a people pleaser. And I'm literally talking about your life as a woman. And this is going to be different for everyone in the nuance of your family, the culture that you were raised in, the expectations. But I want you to really think about what does resonate with you here, because you're going to find a lot of familiarity, because we have a culture that puts a lot of the same sorts of pressures on women. So it might not be exactly your story, but see in that timeline of your story what does resonate with you and what opportunities there are for you to become more free and to literally have the world be a better place, because it's a better place for you. And when it's a better place for you, it's a better place for everyone around you, at least the people that should be and deserve to be in your life. Okay, so We're born. It's the beginning of our timeline, at least in the scope of this video. So you're born, and a lot of our early childhood is about reward and punishment for reinforcing us learning what the expectations are of us. And we start learning very early on that there are different expectations for little girls than little boys. And I also want to really acknowledge all the non-binary people and everyone who is outside of that. But we're talking a bit about a culture that reinforces this binary, and our culture treats people in that binary. So that's why I'm acknowledging it in those terms. So we start learning that when we're little girls and we speak up for ourselves, we're told things like, don't be bossy. But the very same behavior from a little boy is, oh, well, boys will be boys, or boys have so much energy, or boys are so rambunctious. And so we start getting different labels as women, and it becomes very clear there's a different expectation for us as women that starts as little girls. Now, this is the part that we're going to hone in on, because this is really how we break the cycle of being a people pleaser, is at some point, not because it's any sort of feeling of ours, but it's a natural response and reaction to how we're being treated. At some point, it could be late childhood, early adolescence. What happens is that we switch from learning all these expectations that are put on us as women to objectifying ourselves. Now, we're going to talk about this in a different way than you've probably heard it before. So usually when we talk about objectifying women, it's about treating them like objects, right? We take away someone's humanity and we treat them as objects. And you don't treat objects with the same sort of respect or dignity that you treat people. So totally not cool. And we can do a whole live on that. The aspect that I'm going to talk about particularly in objectification is how we objectify ourselves. So let's look at this for a moment. Before society messes with us with the programming and the propaganda and the sexism and the colonialism and the racism and all of that, right? When we're just our natural selves, what is naturally human is to be in our body, right? So I am embodied, I'm in my body, I feel what it's like to be me, I'm looking out to the world through my eyes, I'm thinking about what I want. And that's not what objects do. Objects are observed. Objects have spectators on the outside that are looking at that object and sizing it up and passing judgment and having expectations on it. So part of objectification is, yes, we take the humanity out of someone, but we also look at them in a way where it's from the outside looking in. Like your worth, your value comes from not how you feel that you are, but from how those outside of you feel that you are, depending on their expectations, not your expectations and not your standards. So when we talk about, and this is very connected with people pleasing, when we talk about self-objectification, at some point, because we're taught this as little girls or young adults, we start looking at the world instead of through our eyes and our desires, but we start looking at the world through other people's eyes, through their eyes with their expectations. So remember that video that Meryl Streep did that went mega viral. It was just everywhere for a while. I hope it blows up again because it's awesome. Meryl Streep talks about how men don't speak woman, but women speak men. So this is a phenomenon that happens in our culture where if you are not the dominant culture, essentially if you're not white or male, then this self-objectification happens where you look at yourself through the eyes, through the white male lens, as if you were observing through them yourself and sizing yourself up. So let's give some examples of this. You walk into a room, and instead of thinking of how you feel walking into that room, you think of what you look like to everyone else in the room as you walk in. Do you see this perspective shift? This is the self-objectification. You are seeing yourself as an object through other people's lives, or through other people's eyes. I'm on a live right now. That's why that word came out. Okay. So another example of this is you're on a date with someone, right? And we're talking about the male-female dynamic. So let's say that, you're a woman on a date with a man, and instead of thinking of what is this person saying, how do I feel about it? Do I think that joke is funny? Then we look through the lens of, is he feeling comfortable? As he observes me, is he feeling special? When he makes a joke, how can I laugh in a way that makes him feel good or feel funny? Do you see how this switch happens? This is the self-objectification. We're seeing ourselves as an object through someone else's eyes, through their expectations of us. This is a root of where people pleasing comes from, where we start living our lives through the expectations of other people because we have removed our own humanity because we were taught to do that. And then it flips around to we're seeing the world through the expectations of others, and we start making decisions from what we believe are the expectations of others. So I saw this video the other day. A creator said, when you stop people pleasing, people stop being pleased, and that's okay. And I love the empowerment feeling of that statement. And here is what is missing, is that people pleasing never pleased all the people. No matter what you choose, there are people that are not going to be pleased. You're never actually people pleasing because people is like all the people, right? So there's always going to be someone unhappy about your choice. People pleasing is more about who are you prioritizing to be pleasing? Yourself or other people? What you actually want or objectified through other people's eyes? So let's keep looking at the life cycle here. So early childhood, we learn those expectations. Then we do the self-objectification, usually around, teenagehood, especially as we're going through puberty as women, and our bodies become objectified. And then we start objectifying ourselves because we're seeing how the world is treating us. So at that point, then we start living our lives through the expectations of others, which is maybe not even the expectations of the actual people in our lives, but this internalized white male patriarchy, it's sort of directing our lives. And this is often how it goes. So now I'm a young adult and I am learning how to be palatable, how to be pleasing, not to myself, but to other people. And my aim is to please a man and to get married to a man and to have children. And this is the path that I'm set on. And I'm not thinking of my own desires. I'm thinking of what is the expectation on me. I might not even be considering my own desires. Then let's say that we have kids, right? This is not everyone's path, but this is a path that women are oftentimes very pressured to move through in their life. So now I have kids and my whole life is about them. My life might also be about a career, but it's not, do I want help with my kids so I can have a career? It's, you can totally have a career as long as you're good with double work. You're a full-time mom and you're a full-time employee. And of course, that's an impossible expectation, which is another part of how we are controlled as women, because the people-pleasing isn't just about what maybe other people want. It's pleasing an impossible standard. You cannot be a full-time mom and work full-time. That doesn't make sense time-wise. The math doesn't add up there. And we're given all of these sort of contradictory, double standard, these expectations that are very dissonant to each other, so that it's impossible for us to win. And we spend the early adulthood, early child years doing that, sort of feeling guilt either way, whether you're focused on work, whether you're focused on kids. Even if you're just focused on kids, you're not focused well enough. So lots of expectations there. Then when our daughters go through puberty, because we are oftentimes wrapped up in this I'm trying to say it in a way that I can say it on this platform. So we have a dislike of our bodies and we want them to be smaller, and we are still emotionally triggered by that. When our daughters start going through puberty, then we start pressuring them. That's the stage where it's like, oh, the sons get ice cream and the daughters get another workout tomorrow morning, right? Where we start like separating those things, and that feeling is now passed on to the next generation. Now, a big part of the people pleasing is that there is this imaginary prize at the end of the rainbow. It's this, as long as you just do everything for everyone else, then you're going to get something at the end. So let's think of it in a day cycle. So as long as everyone else's needs get taken care of, I can take the time left over once everyone else is good, and I can take care of myself. And guess how many days there is time left over for you? Pretty much 0, right? Now let's think of it in the lifetime cycle of a people pleaser. It's, well, as soon as I get everyone else taken care of, then I'm going to live life for me. It's going to be my time finally. So when we have little kids, we're like, well, as soon as the kids are older, but then we find out that there's a lot of needs when they're older. We're like, well, as soon as the kids are off to college. And then it's like, well, now they're off to college and they need more money. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to work, or I'm going to focus on my career to make even more money for them. But then really after that, once they're out of college, and then once they're out of college, then I'm going to have time and I'm going to be able to focus on myself. And then the kids are out of college and they're getting married and they're having kids. And now I'm grandma. And now my expectation is to take care of my grandkids. And then because I've been so burnt out this whole time for all of these decades, that I'm having major health issues. And now I'm having to rely on someone else and like, oh, time's up. Like, I don't mean to make light of this. Like, this is a really, really awful thing to move through. But this is the pressure that, like, women for so long, even now, like, yes, many things have gotten better and some things are still really bad. So let's keep going. But this is the life cycle, right? And then we started it for our own daughters, right? It's like, we saw their bodies changing and we put them on the same diet that we're on. And it's the same, like, we are teaching this from generation to generation. We all teach it to each other. We're reinforcing this. So we didn't even go into, now you've supported the diet industry and now you've spent the last half of your life spending all of this money on trying to not age, and like all of the industries that this people-pleasing cycle, that this life for everyone else first, that this horrible expectation that's impossible to achieve, the industries that are supported, like just the diet industry alone is a $78 billion a year industry for a cycle that has a 98% failure rate every single time. So there's huge money to be made as well of us as women staying in this people-pleasing cycle. So let's really focus on how to break this cycle. You might have heard the parable of when is the best time to plant a cherry tree? 20 years ago. When is the second best time to plant a cherry tree? Today. So wherever you are at on this life cycle of being a people pleaser, then you want to really look at, how can I, as of today, start taking steps to break this cycle? And I'm going to give you a very powerful tool. Now remember how we focused in on the self-objectification, that switch where we're seeing ourselves through someone else's eyes and thinking of, what are their expectations of me? What is the pressure for me to do or for me to be? This is where you can start breaking it down, where instead of seeing yourself through other people's eyes, you start being in your own body, looking through your own eyes and asking yourself a very powerful question. What do I want? It may seem extremely simple. And when you start asking it, I highly encourage you to be compassionate with yourself if you have no idea what the answer to that question is. That's a really good sign that you have a lot of freedom available to you and ahead. Celebrate when you realize you don't know what you want, because that means you get to go on the adventure of finding out. It is a practice. It is not something you figure out right away. But here's a really important tip that I'll give you. It's when you ask yourself that question of what do I want? When you feel like you don't know the answer, your brain and the way that society has programmed you is going to default to, well, since I don't know what I want, then wouldn't it just be easier to do what I think other people want, just until I figure out myself, right? So notice how it all goes back to this people-pleasing cycle. So when you notice that you're trying to figure out what other people want and what those expectations are, when you're feeling that self-objectification, let that be a reminder to you to take a breath, become embodied, and that doesn't need to be a difficult thing, and you don't need to feel safe in your body. Like literally, you're just switching it around from perspective of outside person to perspective of inside person, me. And ask yourself the question, what do I want? How do I feel about this? Is a great question as well. Show yourself compassion when you might not know the answer, and celebrate when and if you do and as you're finding out the answer. And I know this sounds simple, but this is how to break the cycle, with a cycle that serves you and empowers you instead of a cycle that takes away days of your life to support systems that were not meant for your success or for the life that you really want to live or your authenticity. So the last thing is to take action around it, whatever that answer is. What do I want? How do I feel? To take action, because your brain pays attention to action. So let's say, for example, in putting this all together, right? Let's say that you're in a conversation. Let's say you're a woman in a conversation with a man. And you're in this conversation and you're noticing, right? The noticing comes first, the awareness. You're noticing that you are thinking about how your body looks to him, and if your tone is pleasing, and how you might be making him feel, right? As if, anyway, we could do a whole live on that statement. But you're going to notice that you're self-objectifying, that you're seeing yourself through external eyes. Take a breath, understand that. And then you can even physically think of it. Like, instead of having a mirror that's looking back at you where you're just like, all right, how am I doing? Just put the mirror down. Think of looking at this person through your own eyes and feel what it's like in your body to be in this conversation. And you can ask yourself, what do I want? Do I like this? How do I feel about it? And you might notice that you are uncomfortable in the way that you are sitting. And you're trying to do it to maybe make your thighs look a little smaller or something that probably no one is noticing, but you're just trying to perform. It might just be relaxing in your chair. That might be the action that you take. But this is literally the action that is deprogramming you from this cycle of people pleasing. It may be that you notice that you're bored to tears. You don't actually want to hear a monologue about this person's hobby that you don't care about. You don't actually want to spend your time trying to make someone feel special and important about something that you don't care about. So you could take action. And you can do that if you want. You have all the options available to you, but you can do that in a harmonious way, in a kind way. There's a difference between kind and nice. I highly recommend you don't focus on nice. That's the people-pleasing part. But you can focus on kind if you want. Excuse yourself from the conversation. There is nothing making you stay there except your own decisions. You are empowered in this. So you start noticing. Then you ask yourself those questions. Give yourself compassion if you don't know the answer, but try to figure out the best that you can, the answer to those questions in this moment, and then take action. And what happens is you start breaking the cycle and you get your life back, which is like so incredibly fun and exciting. Like you literally get your life back and you look back on those years of why did I do so much? Like for not even for everyone else, because like we're loving and we want to support others and like do things for other people and take care of our people, like great. But it was a made up thing. It's like I'm doing things from the perception of what I think they expect of me through their eyes, not through like asking them, but just this societal pressure of this is the thing to do to be a good girl or to be pleasing or to be palatable or to not be bossy or whatever it is in that moment. And you start examining and breaking down all of those layers and those expectations. And I'll give you a clue of what happens on the other side of this. In addition to getting your life back and like feeling so much better and so much more authentic and so much happier and like trading the days of your life for how you want to live, what we say in our community over and over is the world is a better place when you are centered. And what you start finding out is that the people who love you, that belong in your life, not that you're doing it for this reason, but things get so much better for them because you're so much happier. You know what you want. You're so much more authentic. Remember all of the energy that you spent in trying to figure out what someone else wanted? A root of that is from a genuine, beautiful place is that you want the people that you love to have a good experience and to be taken care of. And unless you can provide someone with what they want or what they need or what is pleasing to them, like in relationship, when it's in a healthy place where you're taking care of each other, like it's really hard to ever like really get to know someone in an authentic way and know how to be a good partner or friend to them. So when you start knowing what you want, when you start knowing your authentic self, then the people around you also know how to take care of you, not from a guessing people-pleasing way, but from a, I know you, and I am known by you. And we get to be in this partnership where we authentically know what we want and are able to support each other. It's a beautiful, beautiful life on the other side of it. What I would highly recommend is start with the first piece, start with a recognition, so that you can ask the question, so that you can take the action. I would love to hear how this is evolving in your life. They're one of my favorite authors. She wrote Dream Count, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she has this line in her book that just stuck with me. She's talking about being in this relationship with this man that is like horrible, like treating her awful, and she's just doing all this to do the people pleasing, to bend over backwards, to figure out what will please him, to erase herself in the becoming something that is pleasing to him. And she has this line where I'm paraphrasing. I would love to know her exact language, but I don't have it in front of me. But the thing that echoes, the principle that echoes in here is I diminished myself and I diminished my light and I became small and I tried to become palatable in exchange for absolutely nothing. Understand that this cycle, this way of living life that erases you and turns you into the free labor in the machine to keep our current system going. Like, it is in return for absolutely nothing. And when you break this cycle, you get everything back. And I encourage you all to be in your practice, starting now, wherever you're at in that life cycle, to start breaking that cycle and find out your authentic life and your authentic truth. And it's so wonderful to be here with you today and sending you all of the love, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.